Welcome to Exploration Radio, a podcast on the past, present, and the future of exploration. The fourth episode of our series was an interview with Alex Atkins about her career in mining. Here are the best moments from that episode. Hope you enjoy them. Let's get this out of the way. You have a really classic story about doing back work where you rocked up and you happened to be a girl named Alex. Do you mind telling us that one?
Yeah, that seems to be a favourite of a lot of people. They like that story. I don't know, what year was I in? I think I'd finished second year of my degree and it was a Christmas vacation job. And so that would have been 1987 going into 88. I got a job with Western Mining and got on the bus from Kalgoorlie to Laverton, got off in Laverton, walked in, there was a big queue of students who were all getting a job at Windara. Got to the front desk where the manager was and he looked at me and he said, "You're a girl." And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Well, you can't stay here. You've got to get back on the bus." And of course, I was quite cross with him for saying that to me. So I said, "No, I'm not getting back on the bus. I have a job." His excuse was that there was only a single men's quarters back then. They were called SMQs. And I said, "Don't worry about that. I'll find somewhere to stay. I want this job." So off I went and found the local church and found the priest. And I asked the priest if he could help me find a family that would put me up. And this priest put me up with a very long-standing local family called the Hill family. They're sort of a farming and water corp background. And they put me in their garden shed, in a bed in the garden shed, which is quite hot and horrible in the middle of summer. But I had accommodation and so that meant I could work. So then I was fine, I was set then. So it took a bit of thinking outside the box and not just taking no and fighting it a bit. Newlands was my first job out of university as a mining engineer, which is a coal mine in central North Queensland, which was run by Mount Isa Mines at the time. And I did 6 months there and it was awful. Absolutely awful. None of the other engineers would talk to me because they'd never worked with a woman before and they just had no idea how to talk to me. I have no idea why they were so frightened, but they were. I just think they weren't used to working with women. They'd never had a woman on the team. So I wasn't going to learn a thing there. So I luckily got offered the job at Porgera when I'd been at Newlands for 6 months and I just jumped without even really thinking about what I was doing. I just went for it because I was feeling pretty isolated at Newlands. So straight to Porgera, which was completely different to anything I'd ever done before and anything I've ever done since. It was the most amazing experience of my life.
In the 90s, PNG and Porgera itself would have been a pretty wild place. I mean, it still is. Did you expect it to be what it was, or did you have other ideas about what it was going to be?
Well, number one, I was illegal. But I was used to being illegal because I was illegal in WA. So women became legal in 1986 in WA and Queensland underground. I had the West Australian, they copied the West Australian legislation and they still had the old set. They had a lot of old stuff in there. They had things in there about donkeys going underground, so it was very old. When I got there, unfortunately I had the same problem again as my mining engineering peers that I had to work alongside did not welcome me with open arms. One of the first things that was said to me when I got to Porgera by the other engineers was I got the job because I had a certain body part. And so that was really confronting because I knew straight away that I was going to have a bit of a battle winning them over. But I was really lucky because the people that hired me were their bosses, were higher up, and I had a lot of support from people that were superintendent and up. I think it might be an affront to their manhood that a woman can come along and do the job too. That's something that I'm wondering if that's what that was, because they see their role as very masculine and tough. Because you're managing miners, going to areas that are dangerous sometimes, and you're operating equipment, and you're in control of a large company, a large organisation, a large business unit that has, multi-million-dollar budgets. So I think there was resistance on that front, because I think also because I'm short, I'm blonde, I'm smiley, I'm friendly, I'm a bit giggly sometimes, and I guess people can easily think, you know, what are you? You can't be the mine manager, or you can't be the mining engineer. You just don't fit the mould. You don't look like that sort of a person. You can't be intelligent. So I'm thinking that might have had a little bit to do, and people don't know you and they don't know your background. They just jump to conclusions about you. I found out after leaving Porgera that it was taboo in New Guinea for women to work underground, because in New Guinea women are considered lower than a pig in the hierarchy of the family. So you have the man at the top, then the pig, and then the women and the children underneath the pig. So if you run over a pig, you're in a lot of trouble. I would have thought with that kind of a culture that the Nationals wouldn't have taken to me very well, but actually they took to me very well, and I never had any problems with any of the Nationals. They were lovely. But all in all, it was an interesting experience to see a country where women are treated so poorly, and yet I managed to do okay. I managed to do pretty well. And I loved it because of the choppers. Again, I've got a bit of a chopper fetish, so we did a lot of flying in and out in big helicopters that were from the Afghanistan war. They were Russian choppers with the double rotors, or little Vietnam War ones. The pilots used to tell me about the history of the choppers. So it was pretty wonderful, you know, flying through that incredible topography. Watching the mountains come and go either side of the chopper. You know, if you've had a few wines the night before, it's pretty rough. Especially if it was a good-looking pilot sitting next to you. You didn't want to, you know, make a mess of his chopper. I found myself moving and changing companies quite regularly, and a lot of people used to pull me up on that and make out like there was something wrong with me, but really it was just me trying to grow and learn, and the only way I could do it was by taking the bull by the horns and creating opportunities for myself.
So is there any situations where you think your gender has been an advantage?
I think you don't get forgotten. When you're the only woman in the room, particularly if you're blonde, they don't forget you. And so that's been one of the nice things about my career, I think, is that over time I've accumulated a really big network. I don't burn bridges. People remember that, and they're happy to stay in touch with you and to be a part of your network. So over time your network gets pretty big because people don't forget you and you've been a good person, so they're happy to stay in touch.
If you like this episode and you want to listen to some more, then check us out on explorationradio.com. And you can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, or wherever you get your podcasts normally. And one last request from both Steve and I is that if you like this podcast and you want to sponsor us, then you can do so on our Patreon page. You can find more details on how to do that on our website, explorationradio.com. Till next time, let's keep exploring.